Hey guys, off the Mike Sports Network here, and the New York Knicks has fired Tom Thibodeau. Their season ended Saturday. They fire him on Tuesday, 2 days before the NBA Finals get underway. The New York Knicks stealing all the headlines from the NBA and the content gods in the NBA because they're like, "Thank God we don't have to talk about the actual NBA Finals, even though you should be talking about the NBA Finals." Even though I think Oklahoma City is going to win, the basketball should be semi decent if Indiana can, not really get in their own way, which, like I said, Oklahoma City's outside of Denver's really just run over teams in this playoffs. But for the New York Knicks, um, there was a point early in the playoffs where I was like, okay, if the Knicks don't do really well in this playoff run, and considering, how they were against top teams, maybe if they had lost to Detroit, maybe I would have been okay with them firing Tom Thibodeau. The fact that they got 2 games closer, they were 2 games away from their first finals berth in 26 years. This is their first conference final in 25 years, and had a couple of crazy things not happen in this series, like Game 1, where you blow a 9-point lead in 55 seconds, and Tyrese Halliburton hits a crazy shot. Aaron Nesmith has a crazy heater of a 3-point shooting streak. Maybe this is different. So for Tom Thibodeau to lose his job is just, and especially in the manner, like, the season ended Saturday. Here we are on Tuesday. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is not like I have my reservations about Tom Thibodeau. He's still a damn good coach. The guy's taken this New York Knicks team. Like, the Knicks have been a laughing stock for the last 25 years. They hadn't gotten past like I said, they had gotten to the second round. I think this was only the third time, I think, since, the turn of the century, in that 2000 season, because I think there was the Carmelo Anthony team that made it. And I think that was 20, I can't remember if it was 13, 14. I can't remember what it was. And then there was the season last year where they lost in 7 games to Indiana. And then this year, they back-to-back 50-win seasons. That hadn't happened in a while. Like, Tom Thibodeau has his drawbacks. There's no question about that. Runs his players into the ground, wears them out, doesn't utilize his bench, and that got exposed in this series in particular. He's still a good coach. And my concern here is, what are you getting that's going to be better than Tom Thibodeau? And a lot of people are going to say Michael Malone. And Michael Malone is very much in a lot of the same ways similar to Tom Thibodeau. The only difference is he's won a championship. And Tom Thibodeau, I think he had bookended his coaching career with a conference finals appearance in his first year in Chicago, and then in his last year in New York. So that's really been, like, Tom Thibodeau has never been to an NBA finals. So and he's on the back half of his 60s. It felt like, especially considering where this Knicks team was and how things went in that Pacers series, this felt like a panic move by the Knicks. And it just screams of desperation. It screams of bad ownership. What Again, I think Michael Malone is instantly going to become one of the top mentioned candidates. Danny Hurley, the head coach at UConn, so you're going to go for a college coach. Jay Wright is inevitably going to come up in this because, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. And although Josh Hart, I think, is a free agent, there still is Villanova flavor on this Knicks team. So maybe that's a piece of this. The other problem that I have with this is literally Saturday night, the media asked Jalen Brunson about this, and Jalen Brunson brushed it off like it was a stupid question. So he better be in on this, because if not, you just alienated your best player. And that's not cool. Again, a lot of drawbacks with Tibbs, but this guy was still a good coach. And the Knicks have not had very good coaching and have not had very many good teams to the level that Tom Thibodeau delivered in his 5 seasons with the Knicks. So for him to get fired, especially a few days after the season ends, a couple days before, it screams like they want the headlines. They're desperate to get some attention, and they think that they can get somebody else. My gut tells me, listen, if Danny Hurley turned down the Lakers job, but that was fresh off a national championship. The UConn had a second round exit as an 8. I think it was an 8 or a 9 seed. I can't remember. So that's a possibility. I don't think there is a chance in hell that Jay Wright's going to come out of retirement. I may be wrong. I've been bound to be surprised. Jay Wright seems very, very happy in his broadcasting career at CBS. So I don't think that's happening. Michael Malone, I think, is probably the most realistic one of the bunch. But if they want to go, like you said, you're going big game hunting. A lot of people have brought up Johnny Bryant, who was an assistant under Tom Thibodeau. He is now an assistant coach with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I would hate that personally, because then that would ultimately mean that Johnny Bryant, who's now a finalist for the Phoenix Suns job, Jordan Ott being the other one, he's an assistant coach with the Cavs. That would mean the Cavs would lose both their assistants, so that would suck. But it just doesn't strike me that the Knicks are going to go hire a first-time head coach. Now, if they're going to go college, Danny Hurley's probably going to be the biggest name that you could go get. Jay Wright would definitely create some headwaves too. And then obviously Michael Malone. Those are the three names. Realistically, if you're moving off of Tom Thibodeau, all due respect to Johnny Bryant, if you're moving off of Tom Thibodeau, 2 games away from an Eastern Conference championship, 2 wins away from it, you're firing him for one of the 3 guys that I mentioned. Unless you guys can come up with something bigger in the chat, all due respect to Johnny Bryant, and this is not Cavs fan Mike talking. This is me saying from a New York Knicks front office and their perspective of being where they were, they're not hiring a first-time head coach, even if he was an assistant coach under Tom Thibodeau. That's just not happening, okay? Some of it is wishful thinking, but more of it is just how this lines up. And that's not, and believe me, that ain't going to land really well. It's even some of you diehard fans, Knick fans who are trying to talk yourselves into it, come on. Admit it. If you wanted Tibbs fired, you're going for a big fish. And if they don't, it is a horrible, horrible decision. Regardless, I don't see a reason to do this, especially coming off of the season that they did. Again, a couple bounces here and there, and they're in the NBA Finals. And they're probably getting swept by Oklahoma City, but that's not the point. If they hold on to that lead against Indiana in game 1, they are playing a game. Would be playing a game 7, which would have been yesterday on Monday. They would have been playing a game 7. And who's to say what would have happened in that game? They may have lost that one. But this would have landed a whole lot differently had things gone that way. And look, here's the other part of this. Tom Thibodeau didn't trade for Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns had defensive issues and was, in some games inefficient. Tom Thibodeau didn't trade for Mikal Bridges. I like Mikal Bridges. Showed up big time in that Celtics series. He was not good in this Indiana series for the most part. Traded 5 first-round picks for him. That's not Tom Thibodeau's fault. So this is a scapegoat move. It's a panic move. And they're like, okay, we've reached our ceiling with Tom Thibodeau, which we think is the Eastern Conference Finals, because he's never been to an NBA Finals in his career, and we think we can do better. Can you? I don't know, man. I really don't. Unless, like I said, unless you know for a fact you are getting Michael Malone, Jay Wright, or Danny Hurley, that's it. To me, that is the only justification for doing this. All due respect to Johnny Bryant. Not even putting my Cleveland Cavaliers allegiances in here. All due respect to that. You are not dumping Tom Thibodeau 2 wins short of an Eastern Conference championship for anyone else but those other 3 names. And even still, who's to say that it's going to work out better? These were some of the best Knicks teams that I have seen in the last 20, 25 years. They played hard. They played with a lot of energy. They fought. And even though, like I said, the fan base could drive me crazy, I had a lot of respect watching these Knicks teams just grind out games. And that was because of their head coach. Even if he wore them out with the way that he relied so constantly on his starters. And he was completely and utterly stubborn. This was just not a smart move to do, especially considering how great this season was for the Knicks. Now, had they lost to Detroit in the first round, yeah, that would have made sense because they only got one game better than they did the previous year before, and they would have bowed out against the Pistons, a team up and coming, but a team that they should beat. All due respect to Lane, hi, like I know you're a big Pistons fan, and a lot of Pistons fans still think that they should have won that series, but who's to say that? You lose to Boston, I could have totally seen them moving off of him in the Boston series, and there was rumors that going around. But they got past it. They had a 9-point lead in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals in their own building. And the Indiana Pacers, like they have done in every single round of this playoffs, pulled off an insane comeback that we've never seen before in the history of the NBA. They did it to my Cavs. Like the Indiana Pacers, I think, have 3 of the most unlikely comebacks in NBA playoff history in this entire run over the last 2 months. Okay, they're on an all-time run. I don't think they're going to win the NBA championship, but there is no shame in bowing out to the Indiana Pacers given what they were able to do and accomplish in this series. So, no matter how you feel about Tom Thibodeau, this is a bizarre move from the Knicks. And I think it screams of desperation, it screams of panic, and it's to me it doesn't solve the problem. Some of the pieces that they made deals for need to be addressed. They traded 6 first-round picks, and the 2 guys they traded him for did not perform well when it mattered most. Karl Anthony Towns defensively was a disaster in the Indiana series. Mikal Bridges gave them nothing offensively. He was okay defensively, but he was not nearly close to the player that he was against the Celtics. That's your issue. It's not Tom Thibodeau. And I understand that he's got problems and drawbacks to him being a coach, and he's getting up there in age. But you don't fire that guy 2 games short of the NBA Finals. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. So I understand why Knicks fans are, upset. The Knicks fans who are trying to justify this, guys, that was 2 rounds ago. Had they lost to Detroit, you have ground to stand on. This makes no sense. And the only way that you can really justify it is if you get one of the 3 names that I mentioned at the top of this video. Michael Malone, NBA champion head coach from a couple years ago with the Nuggets, 2-time national champion head coach in college, Dan Hurley, or 2-time national championship head coach of Villanova, since retired, Jay Wright, who's in broadcasting, who I think you have a snowball's chance in hell of getting. That being said, if you were to come out, Knicks would probably be an interesting thing because he's got 3 of his 3 players that he won a national championship with it as currently constructed. I don't know if Josh Hart's going to be back next year. So, yeah, this is crazy, man. I really don't know what to say. Anyway, we'll have a lot more coming in here on this and see who the Knicks ultimately land. Of course, they take away from this NBA Finals, but hey, the NBA content gods granted a gift to the people over at ESPN, so now they don't have to talk about what they think is a boring NBA Finals, even though I think it could be a good NBA Finals. I still think Oklahoma City's going to win. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.